So we have this idea in our head that it's going to be awful and we're going to be sweating and there'll be no more sex and we'll gain all kinds of weight and our vagina will be dry and all of these horrible things that, yes, can happen, but don't have
Mm.
to happen.
Hey, girlfriend, welcome to another episode of Tracy Gold Show. And today we are talking about menopause. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm in my late 40s. And as I've started to look at this whole menopause thing, I'm thinking, I'm not ready for any of this stuff and all these symptoms and things that women experience. And then I come across this woman, Lorraine, who talks about the magic of menopause. And I'm like, I don't know how magical this thing is, but I had to get her on the show to talk about it because it is a part of life and one that I think we really need to be speaking about because there's just not enough discussion around it. So, Lorraine, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. I love sharing the magic.
Yes, I love that. So, Lorraine, is it an unusual experience? Do you hear this often where women go, "Oh, I'm not ready for this thing," because I'm not ready for this thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to convince them that there really is magic to menopause because um, as we go through our younger years, we hear so many myths and misconceptions about it. So we have this idea in our head that it's going to be awful and we're going to be sweating and there'll be no more sex and we'll gain all kinds of weight and our vagina will be dry and all of these horrible things that, yes, can happen, but don't have
Mm.
to happen. Although those symptoms are common, they're not normal. So there's
Oh,
so
I
much.
love that.
Yeah.
They're common, but they're not normal. So, what do
Mhm.
you mean by that?
So there's so many things in our life that we do that can contribute to the symptoms that we're having. And this can begin from our early 20s. If we're eating a lot of processed foods, if we're not exercising, if our stress levels are off the charts, all of those things lead to consistent hormone imbalances, and those hormone imbalances become worse as we become perimenopausal. And that age is usually in our mid 40s. That's the average age to start perimenopause. And those are the years just prior to menopause, which is actually just one day.
Okay.
Menopause is the 12-month anniversary of when your menses cease.
Oh, really? So
And
it
then
is
the
exact. It's the same for every woman. So it's
Mhm.
exactly a year. Okay.
About, yeah, they go a year. Some women may take a little bit longer, but it's usually the 1-month anniversary of when menses cease, and the very next day you're considered postmenopausal, and you will be for the rest of your life. So the perimenopause period can
Hmm.
actually last anywhere from 2 up to 15 years. And for some women, they can begin it even in their mid to late 30s, although that's considered premature perimenopause.
Okay. So how would we know that we're perimenopausal? Because I'm 47. So how would I know?
Okay, so some of the symptoms, and I want to tell women right off the bat that blood work not necessarily is will tell you that you're perimenopausal because hormones fluctuate throughout the day, hourly. So
Wow.
that's just a snapshot in time. And for some
So is it,
women,
sorry, I have to stop you there then,
mhm,
Lorraine. So does that mean that like one moment I'm irritated with my husband because I'm having a hormonal imbalance and then the next minute I love him? Is that the
maybe,
hormone?
yeah, yeah, could be. That's what we
Just
call
so that I know.
right? Mood swings.
Okay. All right. So the mood swings. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Continue.
yeah, so actually, sometimes the very first symptom of perimenopause could be anxiety, and women don't realize that. And that's because when progesterone levels start declining, which is our kind of like our calmness uh, hormone, then anxiety could kick in, especially if there's other things going on in your life and stress levels are elevated. So, sometimes women don't need necessarily an anti-anxiety pill. What they need is to find hormone balance. And really, there's so many holistic ways that they can do that. And some of the other
Wow.
symptoms right off the bat, fatigue, um, low libido is one, irregular periods. So once your period starts fluctuating from you might have it several times a month, you may not have it for several months. Some women have
Mm.
gone 10 months without a period, and then the 11th month they got it, so they have to start over. So if you actually get your period, the 12 months begins again from that date, even though you've gone 11 months.
Okay. Is that a good thing? Because I'm
I
trying to
look at
like
it
work out like how would that be?
Well, I look at it as a good thing only because I mean, as long as you're perimenopausal, right, you still have your hormones and you can work on finding balance with that process. But menopause
Oh.
is a natural phase. We kind of consider it like reverse puberty. It's just another phase of a woman's reproductive life. And so we shouldn't look at it as a disease, which unfortunately many doctors even kind of address it that way. And it's not a disease. It's not something to avoid. I'm postmenopausal now, probably 14 years. I feel great. I have done it holistically, and I'm not against hormone replacement therapy for women who need it. I just choose as a holistic health coach to go that route and to guide women who maybe can't do HRT or choose not to.
Hmm. Yeah, because there are many women who
Hmm.
can't.
Hmm.
So I'm so glad that you spoke about it as it's not a condition. Like it's not because
Hmm.
I saw a documentary the other day. It was an Australian documentary and they were talking about menopause, and you would have thought that this woman was going to die.
Hmm.
You know, it was like this, and they were dramatizing it so much to where I thought, whoa. I mean, and I'm not saying for some women it isn't, you know, I'm not
And
trying
oh,
to underplay
no,
I'm not trying to
exactly.
underplay it, but I felt like it was making women feel as if now we must dread this thing as if it's going to turn our lives completely upside down. And
Yeah.
yet you're telling me it's magical. So, like, what are because there are so many different messages out there,
Yeah.
Lorraine.
Well, Western culture does do a good job of vilifying or demonizing menopause. I mean, if you Google the word menopause, most of the pictures you'll see are women who are sweating or miserable, and they have all these like exclamation points around it, like all different things like that.
Mm,
And so women have to really flip the switch on it because, if you're told something's going to be awful, you'll go into it probably thinking, yeah, it is awful, versus
mm,
going in with a positive mindset and realizing, well, I'm having this symptom, but I don't have to have this symptom. So let's figure out a way to address it and really live our best health and our best life.
mm. So, how would we do that then? If we are experiencing, if I'm going into perimenopause and I'm starting to experiencing
Mhm.
some of those things, how would then I address that?
Okay. I'd like to first address the women who maybe are premenopausal. So that would be even before perimenopause. And that can be
Okay.
anywhere
So
from
where
your
I am, right? Because
okay. So
I'm not yet, I
mhm.
don't think I'm perimenopause. I still have my
Okay.
period.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
yeah, so any woman who is past having their first period, okay? So that would be premenopause, that period. I would say that that's where you begin to really address what you're putting in your body, what you're putting on your body, and what you're doing with your body. So, what we're putting in our body as far as eliminating all processed foods, all processed sugars, um,
Mm,
and what we're putting on our body are skincare products. Most women use, on average, at least 12 skincare beauty products a day. And so many of them are endocrine disrupting and they don't realize it.
mm,
So I always
mm,
recommend going to ewg.org, which is the Environmental Working Group, and they have an app called Skin Deep. You can check your products in there for toxins, hormone disruptors, cancer causing things, and eliminate those products from your life. You can look for organic skincare products. I have a menopause market on my website where I've curated those kind of things for women because I want them to really pay attention to our skin is our largest organ. And so whatever
yeah.
we're putting on it, we're absorbing. So,
Because Lorraine, sorry, I just want to speak to that because that's also very confusing because I have come across organic skincare and then you look at the ingredients and although they have organic some natural organic stuff, they've also got a whole bunch of chemicals in there. So it gets really
yeah.
confusing.
So what I've done is I've taken the products that I have curated for women and I've plugged them into the ewg.org and
Okay.
into the Skin Deep and to see exactly what the risk factors were. And they rate them like from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, right, risk. And I would say anything that's 4 or under is probably safe to use. Of course, the most things with one would be the best to use. Unfortunately,
Mm,
that is hard to find, but a lot of women could just use like coconut oil on their skin or olive
yeah.
oil or things like that. So it's all up to you to do your research, but really pay attention. I mean, from your shampoos to your deodorant to your toothpaste to your perfume.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, right, we're always spraying things on our neck. Well, your thyroid is there and it could be affecting your thyroid gland.
Mm,
So really pay attention what we're putting on our bodies. And a lot of women have done the work as far as their diet. So they're eating well, they're exercising, and they're still having hot flashes and they're still having a lot of issues. And then they go to their skincare products. I actually have a woman who her hot flashes went away, one of my clients, when she just changed up her skincare. So really paying attention to
wow.
everything that's going in the body and then movement. So from an early
Mm,
age, we need to be moving and it can be moderate movement. You don't have to do strenuous exercise. And actually, when we get into our menopausal years, sometimes that can be detrimental to our hormone balance because it raises cortisol levels and that can
yes.
and can put everything out of balance. So for
Yeah.
women in peri and menopause, I recommend yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, those kinds of things. And then some weight training too, because we do want to, build those bones. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, during postmenopause, that's when osteoporosis can happen and heart disease. So we really, really want to pay attention to all of that ahead of time.
Yeah, Lorraine, here on the show, we have Amy Van Loo. She's amazing. She's a fitness coach for women over 50. And
Mhm.
I've started her program. So she has online programs, which are
That's
really
great.
amazing. So
Mhm.
you can actually check out if you're watching, we've got a 4-part series that we're doing with her. And each episode she gives a 5-minute workout and then talks about the importance and how we need to change our activity levels and our workouts because
Mhm.
of exactly what you're saying. And she says exactly the same thing, Lorraine, that,
Mhm.
we don't need to do the hour push, push, push of cardio.
No.
We actually need to do smaller bursts because it raises that cortisol level, right?
Exactly.
And then
Mhm.
she's very big on using weight, like gaining some weight
Mhm.
training, but slowly, slowly. She's even got
Mhm.
these little 5-minute snack workouts, like
Perfect.
amazing. So you
It's
can do these
perfect.
you could do that several times. And then even when you do like a 30-minute weight training, she's like,
Mhm.
only do it twice a week and give 2 to 3 days in between and be careful. And
Recovery. Mhm.
yeah, she's really, really good. And
Oh,
also
that's great.
posture and balance. It's so nice and balanced, it's a really, and
Mhm.
I'm really valuing that because I'm finding that so I'm not perimenopause, but I am sensing some changes in my body, and I feel like
Mhm.
I need to work more at strength, as I
Yeah.
get older. It's so important. I
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've always hated the idea of working with weights, but I hate the idea of being weak worse.
Yes.
The idea,
Yes.
and also injuries. We get injuries. Like I've been
Mhm.
dancing, I go to a dance class and injure myself so easily, or sitting at my desk, I end up, because my muscles go tight and get sore, and then I'm
Mhm.
injured. I'm like, it's not worth that.
Yeah.
Just get those weights,
We got
girl.
to work on that core. We've got to have
Yeah.
good balance. And I was telling you earlier that I have 6 grandchildren, and I want to
Yeah.
be able to get on the floor with them for as long as I can and enjoy every minute of it. So I want to be able to move and be flexible and not be
Mm.
out of breath and and really enjoy the
Yeah.
rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and knowing your why you want to eat healthy, why you want
Mhm.
to do the exercise, why you want to make those lifestyle changes. So,
Mhm.
okay, so you're talking about reducing sugars and reducing processed foods, which I think for many women is a very big deal because I mean, look at the
Mhm.
average American diet, it's pretty full of all of that stuff. Then you're talking to us about what you're putting on your skin
Mhm.
and, from a holistic perspective,
Mhm.
exercise, and then what else?
Stress reduction. So I would say sugar and
Mm.
stress are two of the worst enemies to women during their perimenopause and menopause years. So things that we can do to reduce the stress in our lives, and that can be very hard. I'm actually one of
Yeah,
those
especially
women.
now.
Mhm. I just wrote a
Yeah.
blog post called Queen of Sandwich, and which is me right now. Although I'm not taking care of my adult children, I do enjoy watching their children, so my grandchildren. So I do have the benefit of that, but I also have aging parents and my mom's going through some really horrible things right now. so my stress level is elevated. And I know that happens for many women during these years. These are the years where
Mm,
the aging parents may need your care, and you may have adult children living in your home. So we really have to pay attention to taking care of the caregiver. So that was
yes.
number one. And some of the things that we can do, and I'm sure you've probably had tons of people on about this, but meditation,
Mm,
and yoga and breathing exercises. There's a wonderful breathing exercise that I recommend everyone does. It's called the 478 breath. Dr. Weil, Andrew Weil, came up with it, and it's kind of like a yoga breath. And you can Google it. I think they have little YouTube video on it, but it's basically breathing in for a count of 4 with the tongue in the roof of your mouth, holding it for a count of 7, and blowing out for a count of 8. And do that for
mm,
4 times. And I have women who can't even make it through the 4th time and they're falling asleep at night. So if you're having anxiety at night or stress levels are elevated, it's a cumulative effect because we tend to be very shallow breathers. So this is a time where you're getting that good oxygen into your body and giving you that
yeah.
relief. And then
Yeah.
along with those kinds of things, there are supplements that could help. And one of my favorite is called L-theanine, and it's what's in green tea, but it's like
Mhm.
it's a calming. It's not caffeine. It won't hype you up. It's actually gives you a calming effect. And they've actually said it's just the same as taking a Xanax. So when I was having severe anxiety, I used that to overcome it. And I was able to overcome severe anxiety where I thought needed to be hospitalized. Really, it was when
Wow.
my closest girlfriend passed away, and I was just not doing well with it, and, I did it holistically, and that was one of my lifesavers, was the
Mm.
L-theanine.
So Lorraine, I'm a great believer in we do the work that we do because of our life experiences. And so,
Mhm,
our work is a way of giving back to the world and making good out of the things that the tough stuff
mhm.
that we've been through. So tell us your story.
Well, I guess it would start with, years ago. Well, my son was in Iraq in the very first year, that the soldiers
Mm,
were there, and,
mm,
that was about the time that I was just starting perimenopause and hormones were out of balance. I knew that things weren't right, but I didn't know what to call it then. That was before I was a health coach, before I really knew about menopause, and that's the other thing we need to talk about after this, that so many women just don't even know anything about it going into it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
at just that time, my husband was diagnosed with a very aggressive tonsil cancer. At the same time, my son was leaving. And thankfully, both are fine. My son came back safely, and my husband is a cancer survivor. But
Ah, amazing.
you can
Yeah.
imagine how stress levels are elevated. And I felt like I had to be the strong one at that point in our family. And soon
Mm.
after that, both of my girls were diagnosed with celiac disease, which one had severe at age 19 had severe osteopenia, which is like a precursor to osteoporosis. That's at age
Wow.
19. And
Wow.
the other one had severe anemia because they were misdiagnosed so often about the condition that they had. So thankfully, all they needed to do was vitamin D, pump up the iron, and then of course eliminate gluten from their life. So if for those of you who may not know
Mm.
what celiac disease is, those people cannot eat gluten. It just destroys their intestines.
Yes.
And so you're not able to absorb any of your nutrients. So that
Mm.
was my first introduction into how food really is medicine. And that's how I would relay it to my daughters because they were freaked out at first. I can't eat anything. And then I said, well, really take a look at what you can eat. You can eat
Mm.
anything, whole foods that don't have gluten. And most things that have gluten are processed. So
Yes.
so you can have rice and potatoes. You can have all the veggies you want and the meats and everything that you're eating. We just have to eliminate all the processed things, which is such a wonderful thing to do anyway.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for a lot of people who have celiac disease, they do buy processed. Now they have the gluten-free processed food, which sometimes is even worse than the non-gluten because they're so high in sugar. So people out there, don't buy that gluten-free
Yeah, so
processed
why
stuff.
is that? Because I find I caught myself doing that. So I'm just not wheat friend. I just don't eat wheat.
Mhm.
And so I always eat like if I eat a wrap, it's a brown, it's a brown rice wrap or whatever the case
Yeah.
is. And then I saw the other day I was in Trader Joe's, they had this whole range of like gluten-free breads, and I was like, wow. And then I looked at the labels and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Well,
I
rice
was shocked.
flour, yeah,
I
rice,
was shocked
the
what's in there.
glycemic load is a lot higher in a lot of those foods. And there are some really
Mm,
good ones. I mean, you can find low carb things that are gluten free that have minimal sugars in them, and a lot of them are made from cauliflower and things like that,
mm,
and whole
mm.
grains that are not
And chickpea
wheat.
flour and all
Mhm.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
There are healthy things, but I'm talking more about, like, the cakes and the cookies and the breads, we
Mm,
wanna really
mm,
stay away from those gluten-free things. But at any rate, so all of those things kind of were happening all about the same time, and I was introduced to, IIN, which is the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, in my
mm,
mid-50s, and I said, "You know what? This is what I was meant to do. I was meant to be a
mm,
health coach because that my focus really was on the health of my family and of myself at that time because of the different things I was experiencing, like I said, the anxiety and different things like that. So I became a health coach. I thought I was going to help the world. And then I decided that most of the women who were coming to me were in their perimenopausal years and not
mm,
understanding exactly what was happening to them. They were having these symptoms and not really knowing that they were part of the perimenopause phase. So I said, this is the kind of group that I need to help. I've been through it. I know how it is, how I felt. And then I wrote a book, The Magic of Menopause, a holistic guide to get your happy back. I wrote that at age 57. I'm now 63. I'm studying aromatherapy right now because I know that there's so
amazing.
many other things that can help women along this journey. So, yeah,
Mm.
so that's where we are right now.
That's incredible. And some of the people that I've heard speak about menopause, Lorraine, say that menopause is very different for different women, that it's a
Mhm,
very individual process, and that sometimes that's why we don't know what it is.
mhm.
I wonder if it's more that we're not talking about it, or if it's a bit of both.
Thankfully, we're starting to talk about it a little bit more, but when I first started this journey, so now it's about 8 years ago, there were very few people talking about it, very few health coaches that were addressing menopause, and thankfully, there are so many more. There are celebrities talking about it. There are women yelling the word vagina from the rooftops because
I
it's a
love that.
body part, ladies, you know? And
Exactly.
so it's such a blessing now that we are actually talking about it. Unfortunately, I think the big thing is that the medical community is not educated in it. And literally, I think physicians and residents get about 3 hours of menopause training during their, yeah, education. That is slowly changing also.
Wow.
Yeah. So when
Mm,
you some women are going to their doctors, they're being dismissed. There's, "Oh, you're too young for menopause. Oh, or this is what happens. You'll just have to suck it up, this is just a phase." And so they're not getting the help that they need. They're not understanding it because the doctors are not educating them. They may not have talked to their moms or their sisters, like you said, because it's like it was taboo for a very long time. You just don't
mm,
talk about it. And
mm.
now, thankfully, they're even talking about it in the workplace, and there are even coaches who are going into corporate situations and educating them about ways to support women in the workplace. So,
Yeah.
so many things happening, wonderful things happening now.
Yeah. So, Lorraine, why do you say that menopause is a time of magic?
Okay. Well, first of all, no more periods.
Yay!
That's the best thing. And many of the symptoms that happen in the perimenopause years will fade into the postmenopause years. So a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the hot flashes, those things will change. But there's a newfound freedom, and I guess I look at it like we have this wisdom as
Mm,
older women. We've been through a lot of things. We literally don't give a crap what people say anymore. We're living our lives the best way we know how. And as long as we can live a healthy life and really pay attention, like we said, do all those things, we can travel, we can work as long as we want to, and just really enjoy our lives, find new
mm,
passions, really take the time, right? Maybe during the earlier years when you're raising your family, you don't have the time to really pursue painting or singing or playing music. And these are the times now that we can really pay attention to those things and look at new things to do. Enjoy it,
yeah.
enjoy life to its fullest.
Yeah. I interviewed Mark Middleton. He started growing bolder. I know that you were featured on that's actually how
Mhm.
I found it, Lorraine, because
Oh,
of you,
okay.
because
Yay!
I
Yay!
saw your Instagram post that you were, and I was like, "Oh, I have to interview this guy." Unusual for me to interview guys, but he was amazing, and the statistics of how many of us there are. Like there's 115 million people over 50. And get this, $400 million more spending power. We are spending more than any other demographic. And
Yeah.
that's a year. And he said, we are spending on travel, we're spending on vacations, we're spending on technology, we're spending on all kinds of things. And he says, this whole idea of, you have to age in a certain way and it's just the end of the road for you. He just
Mm-mm.
didn't want to buy it. And he was like,
Yeah.
forget that. I'm going to start a media company that's going to talk about the opportunity that comes with aging, the
Yeah.
the ways of doing it. And I think that's really an interesting way of looking at things. And I also feel, Lorraine, that we're kind of the lost generation in many ways because we aren't our mothers. We're living much longer,
Mhm.
much funkier, much healthier, much like
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, if
Yeah.
I'm only 47, I'm only halfway through. I've got a long way to
Exactly.
go.
And that's
And
what
what
I
am I going to
yeah.
do with that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell women. You have so much of your life ahead of you. Do you want to live it miserable and unhealthy? We want a long health span, not just a long lifespan. We
Yes.
really want to. I have a saying. Well, health coaches have a saying. It's called um, "happy, healthy, dead." Because basically
Yes.
between healthy and dead, you do not want any disease or illness. So you would like to just maybe die in your sleep one day at a very ripe old age after you've experienced all the wonderful gifts that life has to give us. And
Yeah.
but as women, we have to help ourselves to get those gifts. We have to
Mm,
gift ourselves self-care and self-love because if we're not taking care of ourselves, really isn't anybody else that's going to do it. So we
yeah.
really need to pay attention. And I encourage women to talk to their daughters. I say this all the time. I call it the second talk, and that's menopause, and start from a very young age. And you can actually start when they're in puberty because that's often the times that a woman may becoming perimenopausal when their daughters are going through puberty. What a great time
Mm,
to really talk about that time of life and to encourage them to live their best life up until they reach those years because
yes.
chances are, if they do all the good things from the time they're very young, they won't have a crappy menopause, they'll have a magical menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Lorraine, do you think that for some women it's a bit of a wake up call? I think that we
Mhm.
can, when we're younger, we can kind of get away with a lot more, right? We can get
Mhm.
away with less exercise. We can probably get away with less eating right and taking care of ourselves. But as we get older, we actually can't if we want to live the lives that we want to live. And like you
Mhm.
say, live healthy for longer, right?
Mhm.
And live strong. So are you finding that women are saying, wow, like I want to do away with these hot flushes. I want to do away
Yeah.
with this kind of extra weight gain. I want to be stronger.
Mhm.
Are you seeing that a lot?
I'm seeing both sides of it. So I see a lot of women who are well educated because they've done a lot of research for themselves on those things that can benefit them through these years. But then I see a lot of women who really don't they haven't been like I said either through the medical community or through their moms or whatever don't really understand what is happening and do look at
Mm,
menopause as almost like a disease that they really want to avoid as best they can instead of embracing it. So I think that
mhm.
just as more women are educated in the symptoms that are happening at it from an early time and knowing that those are symptoms of perimenopause and addressing it at that time. There's another saying I love. It's called listen to your body when it whispers so you don't have to hear it scream. So really pay
Yes.
attention to those symptoms when they're happening and address what is happening at that time. Don't wait. Don't wait until your body
Mm,
until these symptoms are debilitating because those things lead to depression and anxiety in and of themselves. So
yes.
really pay attention from an early age. Encourage your daughters, and you can live your best magical life.
I love that. Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, so as I prepare to go into that phase, I feel very grateful that
Mhm.
I get to speak to women like you. I was
Yeah.
saying to my husband, Ben, the great thing about this show is that I get to be inspired. And, I learn a lot of things. And like I've been working with Amy to help me to build
Yeah.
because I've been so against, I haven't wanted to do weights, haven't wanted to do weight. Now I'm like, bring on the weights, boy.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got my head around it because I know the kind of woman I want to be. And so
Mhm.
I'm prepared to do whatever it takes for me to be that.
Right,
And I
and
can actually be that with a lot less effort than I thought,
right,
actually.
and
Mm.
you do know and you realize after each workout how wonderful you feel,
Yes,
and how that takes you through the rest of your day. And I always
exactly.
encourage women, if you're going to do it first thing in the morning if you're able to, only because I don't know if you know that book, Eat That Frog. It's like
Mm-mm.
do the worst thing possible that you think in your mind is the worst thing for the day, which for many women, unfortunately, is exercise. So get it off your plate in the morning so you're not thinking about it for the rest of the day and coming up with excuses of why you're not going to do it for the rest of the day. So
Mm, mm.
put your walking shoes next to the bed, get up and just go for a 10-minute walk if that's all that you could fit in a day. And walking is
Yeah.
actually a very great way for women to start exercising if they
Oh,
haven't done it.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lorraine. This has been
Yeah.
amazing. And so where will people find you if they want to take this further and have a longer
Yeah,
conversation?
so themagicofmenopause.com. And then on Instagram, it's at the Magic of Menopause. Facebook, I have a support group, which you can find through Making Menopause Magical. So that's the handle on Facebook. And I have all kinds of resources on my website, and they can always shoot me an email or, sign up for my newsletter there. And there's freebies. So there's a little freebie tag, and they can download eating for hormone health or a plant based reset or different things like that on my website.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I will be putting your
Yeah.
Instagram handle on the screen and also the details in the description. For those who are watching that don't have a description, then just feel free to contact her through her Instagram. She's very contactable. I have used that resource
Thank
myself.
you.
So thank you so much, Lorraine. And then for those of you who are watching for the first time, keep watching because we have amazing episodes of all different kinds of women sharing their inspirational stories and practical lifestyle tips for women over 40, 50, 60, and beyond. And just remember that you do not have to be defined by your age. So if you want to stay in touch with us, the best way to do that is to go to tracygoldshow.com. It will be up on the screen, the address, and you will see the website. There will be a pop-up within the first few seconds, and you can join the insiders list. And that way you will get notified whenever you'll get a newsletter once a week, and that way you'll be able to get all the replays and all the fun stuff and know what's going on the show. We don't bombard you though, just once a week, so enjoy that. So thank you so much, Lorraine. I really appreciate you sharing your story and your real amazing and practical lifestyle tips, and I hope this is of great inspiration to all women
Oh,
watching. Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much, Tracy. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.